So it wasn't like necessarily jail saved me, but sometimes, it's fast out here. And in Detroit is a really fast city that we're living. So it's very distracting. And so jail allowed me to sit down and start, really thinking. And a lot of things that I'm doing today started from in jail, me writing it down.
O'Neal Sherrad was born and raised as an only child in Detroit, Michigan. He comes from a strong family of faith. His grandfather was a pastor, his grandmother was an evangelist, and his father and mother currently pastor a local church. Rod's future seemed quite sure. While still in college, he accepted a head coaching position for basketball at a local middle school. However, things took a turn for the worst. Just weeks after turning 21 years old, he found himself facing 6 years in prison. However, Sherrad found a way of escape from his surroundings. About midway through his sentence, he learned that he could write stories, just like his favorite urban authors. As you will see in our conversation, he stayed busy ever since his release from prison in 2012. Get ready to be inspired as you watch and listen to Prodigal's Build, Episode 3. Prison-inspired and extraordinary storyteller, O'Neal Sherrad. Without further ado, let's just jump right into the interview. Rod, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, my name is Rod. I am an entrepreneur. I teach ballroom dancing and I shoot videos for a lot of people. And amongst other things, I'm also an author and magazine editor and other things, just trying to find my way, my path.
One thing that I noticed, there was like this common theme with you in all the things that you do. You're a videographer, like you said, you edit a magazine, you dance, let's see, you've written books, you've written at least 2 books
Mm.
that I know of. You may have written more, but throughout all of that, what I see is a storyteller.
Yeah.
I also danced at one point. I used to dance at my church for like 10 or so years. And to me, that's storytelling physically with your body. You tell stories with the written word. And then videography. I've seen some of your videos, which are just absolutely breathtaking. So, when did you first know that you love storytelling? Was this something that you discovered as a kid, or when did you know?
Yeah. When I go back on it, when I was a kid, I was a very silly, goofy kid. Loved to joke around. And sometimes when I got into fights, I would pretend like I have asthma and put on this whole acting spiel so they'll leave me alone.
Oh my Lord.
One time I got in trouble at school and we was getting caught jumping the gate. And so then when I came down, the dean was coming. So I was pretending like I really heard something and I was really acting out. But it wasn't until I got to prison and I started reading. A lot of people read in prison for their pastime. And I started reading The Coldest Winter Ever. You ever heard of that book?
Mm-mm.
It's by Sister Soldier. And when I read that book, it like completely took me out of jail. Like I was in New York with this Puerto Rican family, and it was cool. And then I read it like 3, 4 times. And then everybody that came into the cell, I was like, yo, you got to check this book out. And so it came from that. It was like, well, if by reading this, I can take myself out of this element. And that's when the book writing came in jail. So it wasn't until like my third year, I did 6 years. It wasn't until my third year, I started thinking like, hey, okay, I'm on my way home soon. I already figured out how to jail. I know I can do the prison thing now, so I'm good with that. I can ride this out, but what's going to happen when I get home? Because a lot of people were getting out and coming right back in and everyone had the same story. Oh man, it's hard out there. Ain't no jobs. Blah blah blah. They're lying to us in here. There's no support out there. And so now it's like, well, what am I gonna do when I get home? And so that's when the book writing started happening. And then I figured out how to self-publish my books from in jail. So I did that, and I was selling books on the yard. And then so I was like, okay, I have something established so that when I get home, I can sell books. I have something that I actually own. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna start shooting film, start telling my story. So I wrote like 7 books in like 18 months. And I still have the ones that I haven't put out are still in my closet right now. So that's where the storytelling came from. It came from me wanting to take myself out of the current predicament that I was in.
Hmm. So I know that there are a lot of people out there that think about writing. They're like, wow, what an undertaking. But it sounds like you were inspired just as a way of escape, in addition to, okay, I need to make some money when I get out of here, and this is a great way. But like just to be able to tap into that writer in you, you must have a great imagination to be able to do that. So you're writing
Um,
fiction? Is it fiction or
yeah, it's fiction. It's fiction. I think, being an introvert plays a lot in that. We think a lot. We may not say much, but we think a lot. And so my books, weren't about me, but I was able to parallel a couple things, which made it a lot easier. And so that's why I think helped a lot is that, I'm really quiet, but if I'm around the right people, I like the clown and stuff like that. But it takes a while to like when I walk in the room, like I'm not the person that gives off like that starts the vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to come in and I have to check it first. And if it's a vibe that it doesn't fit me, then I'm shutting down. But if I'm in the room and I'm like, oh, okay, these people are pretty cool, listen to their conversation, see what they're talking about, seeing how they move, then once I see that the intention is good, then I'm good. And so I think with the writing, it was just a way for me to, I didn't have to say anything. The same thing with dance, when I get out there and dance with a lady, initially, I ask her to dance. That's all I gotta say, and then it's just a form of communication through dance. So that works for me because I don't have to talk much. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
So, yeah,
I hear you. Yeah. That's why I love dance too. That was the same thing because I was just sharing before we started the podcast that I'm an introvert.
yeah,
And I'm like you. Just to throw this out here, I have this theory about personalities and I equate it to the moon and the sun. And you know how the moon doesn't actually have its own light source, it's just a rock. So when we see it illuminating up there in the sky, it's really just the reflection of the sun. And I think that some people are moons and some people are suns. Like some people just give off energy. And I am a moon. I'm like that person. I need to be in a room with a bunch of suns. And when
yeah,
I'm around them, I just kind of go, psh.
yeah,
But if
yeah,
I'm in the room with another moon, there
yeah.
might not be much going on.
Right. And that's important. The older I get, and it's probably the same thing we do, the older that we get, we start realizing that. And the more you know about yourself, the easier it is for you to navigate. Like I don't talk to anyone that I grew up with, not because they're bad people, just because we're in 2 different spaces. You know what I mean? And then I recognize that just because you grew up with someone doesn't mean that you're going to grow old with them. And so by realizing that, I mean, there's no hard feelings, but when people see me that I went to high school with, it was like, oh, you still talk to such and such? I'm like, no. Y'all used to be around each other every day. I'm like, yeah, I know, but we're in 2 different spaces and I'm okay with that.
Right. And I think we learned that. I agree. Is like some relationships are just for a season. Sometimes they're just launching pads onto the next thing that you are supposed to be doing.
So that's why it's like jail, I wouldn't necessarily say that it saved me. Like I didn't grow up a bad person. Like I grew up in a church. My grandfather was a pastor. My dad's a pastor. But before I went to jail, I was in college. I had a head coaching job for basketball at one of the Oak Park middle schools and signed the
Mhm.
paperwork and everything ready to start the 2006 season. And then I ended up going to jail.
Hi, I know that you're enjoying the podcast so far, and thank you for tuning in. I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Kimberly Johnson. I am your host and CEO of Prodigal Sons Academy, where we help men become financially independent after incarceration. We also provide services for their greatest supporters, their mothers, wives, aunts, girlfriends, and sisters. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to learn more about us, you can visit our website at prodigalsonsacademy.com. Please like, share, and subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs encouragement and inspiration. Now back to the podcast.
So it wasn't like necessarily jail saved me, but sometimes, it's fast out here. And in Detroit is a really fast city that we're living. So it's very distracting. And so jail allowed me to sit down and start, really thinking. And a lot of things that I'm doing today started from in jail, me writing it down on the back of, paper, what we call kite paper or healthcare paper. I was writing on the back of that, the things that I wanted to do when I got out. So my cousin said to me one time, he was like, "Man, maybe I need to go to jail and be like you." I was like, "No, if you sit in your house Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and turn the TV off and turn your phone off, by day 2 or 3, your mind's the distractions are gonna be gone. Then you're gonna start thinking about, a lot more stuff that you either want to do is gonna start coming to you."
Yep, I agree with that. We do need a change of environment, but we have to do it ourselves
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it the hard way.
No, yeah, don't do it the hard way.
So how did you said that your father was a pastor, like how did your family respond to you having to go to jail? Like what was that like?
Um, it was hurt. My mom is really dramatic. So I remember, when they gave me my sentencing, by that point, like I went to jail in July, and I didn't get sentenced until February 13th of 2007. And so by that point, I was like ready. Like, I mean, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And it is what it is. And I made some bad choices. And so when I was getting my son, they told me I was got 6 years. My mom just started screaming and yelling. They had to take her out. She was on like anxiety pills my entire prison stay. Like now, it's hard for her to watch any movies or TV shows about jail. Because she has flashbacks. But they took it hard, but they supported me the whole time. If I needed money, or they always kept the phone on, money on the phone. So I think that they understand that, um, and by me being the only child, that was really hard for her to. Um,
How old were you when you went?
20, I just turned 21.
Okay.
Yeah, and but it was hard for them. But it was, they kept me in good spirits. I remember times where I would call my mom, and I wouldn't have anything to say, and she would understand like what I was going through, and help talk me through it, because I'm not gonna lie, like prison is not hard from a physical standpoint. Like it's hard on your mental, and you're in there and the holidays are passing and you want to be about family and you're calling home. Like that's tough, especially if you have kids. Like I don't have any kids, but being in there and you're missing birthdays, like that's tough. And it's hard to get past it, but after a while, like I stopped calling on holidays. Like I would go work out, instead of calling on holidays, because I just didn't want to hear it anymore. So I had to block everything out here out. So yeah, I was in there with guys that lost their mom while they was in there. So imagine, you're seeing a guy your age losing his mom. Now I got you thinking about your own, family. So it's tough on the mental. And if you can break through that, then you're good. But it's hard to do that.
I can't even imagine. I mean, even a month behind bars, that's just too long. But to be
Yeah,
there for 6 years or
yeah,
12 years,
yeah,
I've interviewed a man that was locked up for 40 years. It was
yeah,
just, it becomes a way of life at a point, but it's not
yeah.
healthy.
It's not. And then, you're in it with guys that's never going home. And so you're looking at these guys and their spirits ain't low. You know what I'm saying? So on the flip side of the coin, you have guys that know they are never going home, but they're smiling, they accepted whatever it is that they done to get them in there. And so then you're like, well, he already been in here 25 years. He know he ain't going home. So he ain't tripping. So then you get energy from that, and then you start talking to them like, even though, they call us convicts or whatever when we go to jail, but these are still real people. I mean, human beings.
Thank you.
And so you learn from these guys. Some people learn how to be a better criminal. And some people learn how not to be a criminal at all from these guys. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you definitely had a way of escape, just from being able to write, but that took you 3 years. Was the 3-year mark when you just settled into, okay, this is what it is. Let me just adjust and find positives.
Yeah, because I had moved, I was up north my first 3 years, across the Mackinac Bridge, and then I came downstate. So when I came downstate, it was like, yes, I get to see my mom every week or every month. And then so I started seeing more family because up north, man, that's like Michigan is a deep state. Like to travel from Detroit all the way up to where I was, it was like a 13, 14-hour ride.
Ooh,
Like
really?
Michigan is far. Like when you cross that bridge, it's like a whole nother state up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
So what city were you in?
I was in um I was in Mackinac, I was in Kinross, and I went to Ojibwe. Ojibwe is the farthest. Ojibwe is like right by Wisconsin,
Oh,
like
wow.
up there. Yeah, so it's far.
So why were you being moved? If you don't mind me
They
asking.
move people for bed space. I mean, you watch the news, all these people you see doing dirt and they getting caught. There's so many people coming into the prison system every single day. So they bounce people around for bed space.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So when you came home, you had already written a book
yeah,
and it was already published, which I'm very interested in. How do you publish a book
mm,
while you're incarcerated? Because I don't understand that.
yeah.
But then you came home, and what was like the first thing that you did? Like, did you start on your next book? How is it just adjusting to being out for you?
Um, but the first thing I did when I got out was I went to McDonald's. The egg McMuffin, hash brown, orange juice. Um, but I remember I had him bring my laptop. I had a lot of music on my laptop. And so when I was in the back seat, I was just listening to music, just like a nostalgic type of thing. And I did a book signing. I came home on the 27th. I did a book signing like 3 days later at a park. It was like my welcome home party. But I was like, no, we're doing a book signing. And so I did that. And I just took it. I didn't necessarily take things slow, but I was just staying consistent with the things that I had in mind. And I did another book signing at Bixby a couple months after. And so I was selling books to people out my trunk of my car. Now, it wasn't like I was making a lot of money, but for me, like I was moving, you know what I'm saying? And that stuck with me too now. Like it has to, like I have to be fulfilled. Like I'm more about fulfillment over money. Like I have to enjoy what I'm doing. And as long as, I'm cool with that and I can take care of myself, then that's good. And it was just step by step, and then I started being led to do different things. And that's how I started transitioning to different things like dance and stuff like that. So I started dancing at like 7 months after I came home. And the way I got into that, I was at Target with my mom and I had shirts made like with my book on it. And it was like, Amazon.com available now. This lady stopped me and she was like, "What does your shirt say?" I was like, "Oh, I have a book, blah, 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 this, and that." And she was reading it and she was like, "Oh, you just did time in prison." I was like, "Yeah, I just got out not too long ago." And she was like, "Well, do you do any speaking at youth events?" I was like, "Yeah," because I was speaking in like different churches, youth programs. And she was like, "Well, I want you to come. I just started a nonprofit. I want you to come check it out. You know, I got computers and stuff. I was like, all right, cool. So I didn't have a car as soon as I got out, but I started driving not too long after, but I forgot about her. And then she called me one day in February. I was leaving Eastland Mall, and she was like, "Hey, I still want you to come by my place and check it out." I was like, "Cool. Where are you located?" And she was like, "I'm on 8 Mile in Southfield." I was like, "Oh, I'm right down the street." I was just leaving Eastland Mall, and she was like, "Oh, we're going to start doing ballroom classes too. By the way, you should stay for that too." And so when I went there and I started, I checked out her place and took the ballroom class, and I was like, "Oh, this is nice. I like this. It's fun." And so that's how I got started.
Yeah, one thing led to another. That's how it works.
Yeah, yeah,
Very organic. Very good. I mean, I just love the idea that you came out and you already had a purpose. You know, there's so many people that I know of that come out and, it's really sad when you don't have something to look forward to.
yeah. That's the main thing, you know. And 10 years. I've been out 10 years and a couple months now, and this, the thing that people need to do, you know, when they get out is just have a plan, no matter what that plan is, and people are going to look out for you. You know, I had people look out for me and still looking out for me, because I had a plan and I was just constantly moving. And that's really important. You know, whatever it is that you want to do, you want to start a clothing line, you want to cut grass and landscaping, you just have to put it out there that this is what you're doing. And people are going to start, coming around. Like, I feel like people have to see that you're actually doing something. Like, nobody cares that I've been to prison. You know what I'm saying? Like, now, like, I barely even talk about it. Like, nobody cares. They only care about who you are right now. You know what I mean? And that you're actually doing something, because a lot of people that have not been to jail, a lot of these people ain't doing nothing. You know, when I go back and look at all my people I went to high school with, without judgment, I'll just be like, yo, what are you doing with your time? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And so you have to get out. And if you're out, you just have to, whatever it is that you thought you wanted to do, this is the time to do it. It's so easy to do anything and be anything that you want to be out here. And people will look out like that. I will know for sure. Like, people are going to come around if you keep coming around.
Mhm. Well, that's amazing that you had a community. For Prodigal Sons Academy, we really do focus on community. We know that that community can include what I call MWAGs, so mothers, wives, girlfriends, and sisters come alongside our brothers, husbands, boyfriends, and help them where sometimes you don't always feel like there's a lot of support. Like you're saying, nobody cares about my record. A lot of the men that I see come out will first thing that they'll try to do is try to find a job. And sometimes that just doesn't happen. Say they've only served a year or two and they've got that felony still on their record for, however long before they can actually get eligible. A lot of people be like,
Yeah,
oh, you can't have a felony for at least 5 years, 7 years,
yeah,
whatever the case
right,
is.
yeah.
Like for that person, what do you tell them? I mean, I think you were blessed to have that community. For someone who doesn't have that kind of support, doesn't feel like nobody cares about my felony when really some people's like it's right in my face all the time, every day.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of guys that I would walk the prison yard with are so successful right now. And when they got out, they got around other people that had did time. So I will recommend finding people that have been to jail and are doing their thing right now, and they are your connections if you don't have any other support. Like, I know so many people that I've been in jail with. Like, it's a guy I know right now. We walk the yard together. He is at University of Michigan, about to get his master's next year in social work. And I've seen him now. When he got out, he ended up going back in for a little bit. Now, this is a guy you could talk to too, and he'll tell you his name is Nicholas Buckingham. But he got out, he took it slow. He went to Oakland Community College. From there, that transferred to Oakland University. And now he at U of M about to get his master's in social work. So I would say you find people that were already incarcerated, because a lot of these people that was incarcerated are the plugs. They gon' lead you to the way. It's about relationships, and a lot of my relationships came with people I was in prison with, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that there's some bonds built while
It
you're
is some, it is some people, yeah, because they're like people that you knew out here, them knowing you starts to be very little because you're around somebody every day now.
there. Hmm.
Like I got a buddy that I met when I was in there, and he came home and after me, and I was like, look, bro, I got all these books that I read. I can give you one. You can put your name on it. I know you can hustle because he used to sell food when he was in prison. It's like, bro, I seen you take a 25-cent pack of noodles and turn it into $30. And they give you one of these books, but he ended up getting, caught up with the pills in another state. But when he was in there, he could call me. He was like, man, I'm about to miss my son's birthday. I need you to do me a favor, buy him some shoes. I go buy his son some shoes, no problem. Ain't nobody do nothing like that for me when I was in it. But the relationship was different. You're around somebody every day. So definitely, like there's a lot of people that I know have been in jail. Like some of these people are lawyers now and everything.
Mhm, mhm. Oh, that's wonderful. And I agree with you. Like, mentorship is so important, or relationships. So I want to build a network of people like yourself and this other gentleman that you mentioned, so that people who visit our channel can say, oh, okay, this is where I can go and get inspired. Like, people that can relate to me, people that understand what I've been through, people that,
Yeah,
can make those connections for me and keep me uplifted. I just think that's so important.
yeah, yeah.
Community.
You definitely need other people, man, because there are times where, like recently in the last 2 years, like I was burnt out. I'm like, man, I got out of jail. Like I've been running. My Instagram it shows more of what my Facebook does. But I don't have a lot of posts on Instagram. I think I got like 300, but you can scroll all the way down and you can see, I have my books in Northland. Then I was at events with my books. Then you can see me start transcribing or going into dance. Like you can really see the evolution of everything that I've done to
Mhm.
being on Fox 2, to being in the Detroit Free Press and stuff like that. So yeah, it takes time, but you just have to stay on it. But I was like, man, I've been at this for 9 years. And it wasn't like I wasn't feeling like I wasn't going anywhere. It's just exhausting when you're working for yourself, and when you have that mentality, like, I know when I get out, it's gonna be hard to find a job, but let me create something now. You know what I'm saying? And to stick with that and stay with that gets tiring. So now I'm uh being more energized now. Like I just met with a lady a couple of days ago about some ideas that I had, and she gave me pointers, and I was telling her the same thing. Like I was burnt out, and she was like, "Well, you need to do this, blah blah blah, this and that." And then I would start feeling it, like, "Yeah, you're right. I need to get back on it." You know what I mean? So it's gonna be a roller coaster, but you gotta keep going at the end of the day.
So let me just ask you a question about your books,
Yeah,
if you don't mind.
yeah.
Where did these books come from? What inspired you? So Bird or Elsie, either
Let's
one
see.
of those?
Yeah.
Are you in there anywhere?
Not really. Like, no. And my family used to ask me the same thing. Is this book's about you? I was like, bro. I mean, I ride a motorcycle now, but in the book, he like rides a motorcycle, and it was like he's in there like toting guns, and I was like, come
Like, yeah.
on. No, but no, I don't even remember how that even came about. Um, because how you see it, I was written exactly how I was thinking as I was writing. Now, there's a scene in there, I did go to school in Canada for a minute. So in the book, he mentions that, but the things that happen in Canada in the book were very fiction, and stuff like that. So when I say about parallel, it's like now if I write a story and the guy is, 6'3" and rides a motorcycle, but he smacks somebody upside the head with a crowbar. The only thing that was real was the fact that, oh, I ride a motorcycle. Let me put this guy on a motorcycle. Um,
Okay.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty.
So there's none of you really, not too much of you in any.
No, no.
But your life story, have you ever thought about writing that out?
Yeah, yes and no. I actually have an idea now, and I'm just not sure that I don't want to do it. Um, I don't like talking about myself. Like I'm really like quiet. Like I'm working on a film right now, and it's about ballroom dancing. And I was going back and forth, like, where are not many black ballroom dancers as far as traditional ballroom. You know, there is an urban dance community, but this story plays on both fields where the Europeans dance and where the black people dance. And I dance on both sides. And I was like, well, it's gonna be hard for me to find somebody that dance on both sides because I'm the only one in Detroit that competed both in the urban side and traditional side. And I
Mm.
was like, I really don't want to act in this. Like, I'd rather just be behind the camera. But I felt like I needed to. Until recently, I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And because I don't want people to look at this and think that this is my story, you know, because I'm in it. And I don't want any of that um, energy to come back on me. So I'm going to use, you know, another actor. So I really like being behind the scenes. And like, if I have to be put, I don't like being put on the spot, but if I'm put on the spot, it's like, okay, I got to do it, you know, and then I'm out
Yeah.
there. So, yeah,
Like podcasts like this.
yeah, yeah,
Where you have no choice. You
yeah,
are the subject,
yeah, yeah,
highlighting your awesome life. So
yeah.
feel comfortable with that because I would love to see that story because I mean that's quite a journey.
It is. So I have a title for it. I know what the cover is gonna look like. I actually started writing it. Um, but I don't know. I'm going back and forth in my head with that.
Yeah. So okay, here's one thing you haven't really talked about is okay, so is Go Dance Detroit, is that your magazine?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You know, that was actually a prison idea. So I was in jail. I was in Cooper Street. I was walking the prison yard, and I was like, man, there's a lot of magazines get rejected coming in here. Like, granted, you know, guys are ordering like play or trying to order like Playboy magazines or whatever. I get it, but I was like, what if I created a magazine where it was like for resources for guys that's getting out, and they can order this magazine. Yeah, we can have like a beauty of the month, you know, girl in there, you know, fully clothed or whatever, but stuff like that. And that was the original. So I went back to my cell and I like mapped like all the pages out. Like 1, 2, 3 is going to be this, 4, 5, 6 is going to be this, 7 and 8. And when I got out and got into dancing, I realized that a lot of information to people wasn't as accessible as I thought it was, especially when you're older. You know, a lot of people that's in their like 60s and 70s, you know, them navigating on Facebook can sometimes be, if you've been around somebody older, you know, they be all over the place. And I was like, well, people always asking me, where can we go dancing, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, isn't this stuff on social media? Apparently it wasn't. You know, some people have a hard time. So I created the magazine around that to highlight different people in the community, places to go dance and different topics and stuff like that. And then it took off. This is in 2016. My first event was at a loft downtown. And then the Detroit News contacted me on Facebook. It was like, hey, we want to talk about your event. I was like, what? It's like that. And in 2000, no, that was 2017. In 2018, I was celebrating the 1 year of the magazine, and I did it at the Masonic Temple. I had like 500 people there, and it was crazy.
Oh.
Yeah. And so when 2020 came, my girlfriend at the time, you know, we were talking about moving to San Diego. And then we're like, well, what's going to happen to Go Dance? I was like, well, it's going to have to be dissolved because, you know, I didn't build a team for it to keep it sustained. So I'll just have to figure it out. So then I went digital. But as 2020, the pandemic came, it reminded me of being in jail. You know, we have to pretty much sit in the house. And then that's when I, again, started thinking again. You know, I tell anybody, you just sit in the house and you're going to see. And it was like, well, I can't teach right now. And who knows when that's going to happen? You know, we didn't know a lot. And it was like, that was my main source of income. Well, what am I going to do? Well, I can't focus on the magazine and other people right now because I have to be selfish and focus on how I'm going to make my own money. Because the magazine wasn't about money, it was just about the people, what I felt like they needed, and everybody was loving it. And I started shooting videos a year before that. And by 2020, I started getting paid to shoot videos like for dancers and stuff like that. And so that took off in 2020. And then the magazine got left behind. And, I still think about it, like how I was going to pivot that because my girlfriend at the time, we broke up. So we never obviously made it to San Diego. And in my head, it was like, well, the magazine is going to be dissolved anyway. And so, yeah.
Mm. Okay. So the magazine is no longer then.
It's laying doormat right now.
Just taking a nap. It'll
Yeah,
wake up eventually.
yeah,
Sounds like it
I
was really
think so.
successful.
Yeah, it was fun. It was just a lot of work. It wasn't for money, so it was really me, dedicating my time, and being out all the time at different events and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, so I have some ideas on how I want to pivot that. I just haven't got to it yet.
Well, it sounds like you're really active then, mostly with the videography. So that's called radography.
Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
say it?
It's radography.
Radography. Okay.
Yeah, and I need to be posting more video. Like I shoot live videos, but I just don't be posting it. But I post stuff every now and then. But the thing with the videos and why it's so important to me is because when I got out of jail, like I wanted to get into film school. Like I wanted to shoot movies for my books, and so I went to the Motion Picture Institute with my mom, and I went through the orientation and everything. And it was like 10,000 for the year. Which was a great deal because you get to come back and use the equipment. You can rent out all the studio stuff. And I was like, bet. The thing about it is they didn't accept government aid, so you had to pay 10,000 out of pocket. I didn't have 10,000.
Mm,
So here I am 10 years later, with the camera, and then so it's like, all right, I'm about to shoot it myself then.
there we
So yeah, hopefully I'm stressed.
go. It'll get done. It'll get done.
I hope so, because I'm planning to shoot this in April, and we're about to be in November. So it's a scary thing, man. I've been telling people about it, so it's like I need to get it together. So I finished the script October last year, and sent it to this director that I'm working with. She's going to be assisting me. She's from here, but she lives in Atlanta. And so I be telling her the same thing. Like, I don't know why this is so terrifying to me. I'm like, I would produce books while in prison and done magazines, but something about this film industry, it just seems like it's a whole lot to it that I just don't know. But a lot of people didn't know either.
Mhm.
And that's another thing. Like, you are not going to know everything. And I'm really good at jumping in the deep end of the water and then figuring out how to swim when I get in there.
Mhm.
And for people who are going to watch this, like you have to keep that in mind. Going to prison is an advantage because there you can't go no lower than that, but death. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get no lower than that.
No.
Like so to be in there, like I mean thinking about that, like I'll joke with people and they be like, oh blah blah blah. I'm like, bro, I've been in prison. There's nothing that's gonna break me. Like I'm going to figure it out because I figured that out. I never had a fight. Nobody ever stole from me. You know what I'm saying? Like I made it through 6 years, and I went to prison. I was 155 pounds, and 6'3".
Ooh.
You know what I mean? And so by going to jail, if you out, you have an advantage because you really know what the bottom feels like. And so like I was like, I've been there. Like, and there's nothing I can't do. When I was 35, I'm 37 now. I was telling this Asian guy my 5-year plan. I was like, yeah, by the time I'm 40, I'm gonna have my first film done. This, and that. He was like, this is before I even wrote the script, and he was like, 5 years is a long time. And he was like, but you'll understand that more if you found out you had cancer. I was like, what? What does that mean? And so he started explaining to me, he was like, we spend a lot of time or we make our timeline so long for things that we can do now. And he was like, if you think you can do it in 5, you can do it in 3. If you think you can do it in 3, you can do it in 2. He was like, when I found out I had cancer, he was like, my sales in real estate quadrupled. because he was in his head thinking like, I'm going to die. So I need to work my butt off now for my family, make sure they're straight. And so that mentality, like really pushed him to really propel. And so when he told me that, I was like, dang. So then I wrote my script. I set a timeline for my script. I talked to him in January. And I was like, all right, but I need to write this script by the end of the year. And so I finished it 2 months early because I'm like, well, if I can write it in 12 months, I can write it in 11. And then that 11 turned to I can write it in 10. And that's what I did.
Wow.
So, yeah. So,
yeah, that's some really good advice.
can I read you this quote? So, this is a quote from him. It's actually my screensaver. He put under one of my pictures. I think when I wrote the script, I posted like the finished manuscript on Facebook, and I'm like, we'll be doing Cassie's call soon. And his message to me was, whatever your highest dreams, wait, double it, then work twice as hard, and you'll reach your original dream twice as fast. And he said, there are no problems that a little bit of determination and hard work can't solve. Live and love gloriously as if death is right around the corner, because it is, and you got no time to waste.
Ooh, good.
Yeah.
Love that. Oh my gosh.
He's like a Mr. Miyagi to me. Like when I get around him, like I am listening, like we're really close. I'm like listening to everything that he says, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the advantage, I mean, a lot of us in the Black community, we didn't grow up with that type of wisdom. Like this is Asian guy, so his dad's successful, mom's successful. They have a lineage.
Yeah, we didn't
You know
have
what I'm
that.
saying? Yeah, we don't have it. Our peoples came up here to work,
Mm-hmm.
so they have that, mentality, with an exception of, a handful of other Blacks that really have been successful. But yeah, so.
Yeah, you need that kind of fuel to keep you going. We need that shift, that paradigm shift every now and then, like, oh, I've been doing this all wrong. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that talk about, our goals are just too low. Like we need to set the bar really high, like overcommit and over deliver.
Yeah, that's where I am with this film. This is you hear me talk about this stuff because I stress out like this thing is like above and beyond, anything that I did. It's scary as hell. And I've been telling people about it.
I
You know
know
what I'm
that makes it
saying?
worse,
So
right?
that makes it worse. I'm like, yeah, I'm shooting this film. So then, you have people asking you about it. So it's like, man.
Yeah. Yeah, people gonna keep you accountable. Like, weren't you working on a film?
Yeah, yeah.
Leave me
And here I
alone.
am telling people, yeah, we're shooting it next year, 2023. So yeah. So
So
if you're watching this, right now and you hear this conversation, then I actually pull it off, that to me will be the Taj Mahal of everything that I've done. It was to pull this off, doing the crowd fund, asking people for money and um, to do this. I feel like once I do this, it is over. At that point, it will be nothing that I can't do ever because once I figure out or learn how to shoot and produce a movie, like the rest of my books, like it's gonna be so easy to do. I know that for sure. I know it. I just gotta do it first.
and I think you'll do it. You'll do it. And we're here to support you. So where can people find you if we want to follow you, see how your journey's going? Because it's definitely not over. You just starting.
Yeah, yeah. You go to my Facebook page, which is O'Neil Sherrad, ONEILSHERROD. My Instagram is the same. Um, so yeah, like if you really, just wanted to see everything in its timeline, like if you went on my Instagram and scroll to the bottom, you can see the things that I was doing when I got it and how it transitioned to something else and the people I met. Like I just did an interview with Greg Mathis like 2 months ago. How cool is that?
Yes, really. How did that happen?
Phone call, this lady saw my work, and she was like, "We noticed you was shooting live videos. You want to shoot a campaign video? I think Greg Mathis is going to be one of the people talking." I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So,
Wow, that's awesome. It has been a pleasure to talk to you and learning more about you.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you so much.
yeah. So if anyone is interested in meeting Rod and talking to him or even hiring him, you can find him out there on Instagram. We can get you on Facebook
Yeah,
and YouTube.
Facebook and
Oh,
Facebook and Instagram, yeah, you can reach me there. And if people are have just got out from incarceration, I might definitely have some leads, to help you guys out.
mhm.
Um, because we are your networking community. There's so many guys out here doing so many great things
Right.
that have been incarcerated, and
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure that everybody's going to be so inspired by you, and we're rooting for you. And hopefully by the time that we publish this video, you'll have a link so that we can give you some money and help you with your
oh man,
upcoming
you're trying
film.
to put the rush.
Yes, come on. Yes, we need to have that. Let's get that
I know.
together. Just
I
we'll give you a week.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And we'll see you next time on Prodigal Spilled.